Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for the second episode of Blues World. I want to thank each and every one of you who were tuning in today. Thank you for supporting the channel and supporting this podcast. And for everyone that listened last week, that supported me and gave me feedback on that, I really appreciate it. But the goal here is we're going to get better with each episode, each topic. Every single episode is going to be better than the last. I guarantee it. I'm going to get better. The topics are going to be better, and it's going to be better for the viewer. So you guys stay tuned in because everything is just going to be better at the end of the day. Also, before we get into today's podcast, I want to give a shout out to my friend Jeff, who has a podcast on this channel as well. We did a review of Eminem's Revival and kind of a retrospective on his career. So if you're interested in that, and you should be, go check that out on our channel. I'm going to put a link to it at the end of the video. So go check that out. It really helped us out a lot. And I think it's an interesting topic and something that a lot of people would find interesting. So without further ado, let's get into it here today. Blues World Episode 2. Let's do it. So the Carolina Panthers, they are for sale. Last week, allegations came out. And first off, this was reported by Sports Illustrated. Jerry Richardson, the owner of the Panthers, was being investigated for allegations of workplace misconduct. Now, if anyone knows me really well, I'm an absolute diehard Panthers fan. So this really kind of came out of nowhere. So I was really surprised about this. It was a shock. I hadn't really heard anything about this coming up. Throughout the years, I hadn't really heard anything about it. So when this kind of came out, with all this allegation stuff coming out against Hollywood and musical and comedians, all this kinds of acts, this kind of wasn't a surprise, though, the more I thought about it, because this stuff has just been kind of pouring out from the mainstream media. So he's being investigated for allegations of workplace misconduct. So Sports Illustrated also reported that 4 people were paid off and got settlements to remain silent because of Mr. Richardson's allegations. At first, I was deeply concerned because this team is probably going to the playoffs, so they're making a playoff run, and I did not want this to affect their ability on the field and the cohesiveness in the locker room. That's not something that you want when you're getting ready to make a push for the playoffs. So I was really concerned about that, but I was going to wait until the facts came out about everything. A lot of people, sometimes the facts cannot be true. A lot of the stuff can be made up. But, when I kept reading, everything got worse and worse and worse. And that's what I'm going to get into. Mr. Richardson would tell female employees a couple of things like this. He would tell them to turn around to see their backside. He would also say things like, "Show me how you wiggle in those jeans. And I bet you had to lay down on your bed to fit into those jeans." Now, when you're dealing with things like that and allegations such as the ones I just listed, it's not going to go well for you. In this day and age, when allegations like that come out against you, you're done, man. It's over. I don't care who you are. It's a wrap. It's over. So when these things came out, I knew it was the beginning of the end for Mr. Richardson as the owner. And I kept telling my dad. My dad did not believe me. I said, "Hey, man, don't be surprised if the team is up for sale very shortly, even at the end of the season." And he didn't believe me, but here we are now. A couple days later, the Panthers are up for sale. Apparently, Mr. Richardson would also be called Mr. They would have to refer to him as Mr. I don't know. I'm assuming that's mostly the females, maybe even the male employees. And apparently, it was a running office joke. So these allegations were a running joke amongst members of the Panthers, not the players themselves, I'm assuming, just the employees in the offices and stuff like that. Apparently, Mr. Richardson also made racial slurs at African-American scouts. He asked a female could he shave her legs. So that's very telling. And apparently he would take females to lunch with him. His nickname around Panthers fans is the Big Cat because he's the Big Cat. He's the guy who founded the franchise. He's the owner. He's the one that brought football to the Carolinas. So he's referred to as the Big Cat. So he would take females on lunch dates with him, and apparently he would try and be gentlemanlike and open the door for them to get into his car, and then he would insist that he would put their seatbelt on for them. And while he would do so, he would touch their breasts while putting the seatbelt strap across them. And, at the end of the day, like I said earlier, when you've got these kinds of allegations coming out against you and you're a high figure in the media, a respected figure in the media, it's not going to go well for you. And like I said earlier, 2 days later, boom, the team is up for sale, as I thought it would be. And, this is kind of the perfect way for the sale to happen. And I'm not saying what happened was good, because it's not. But if you're a Panthers fan, someone that has followed the team, you know that Mr. Richardson had plans to sell very soon, probably within the next 5 years at the latest, if I had to speculate. So when you have these kind of allegations, it's just a lot easier for him to say, you know what, this is the time for me to just sell the franchise and just get out of here while the stuff's hot. You certainly don't want to have to face this for a couple more seasons, because it's not going to be good for you. So he makes the right decision by putting the franchise up for sale. It's just the opportune time, maybe. There's no need to really wait to do this. So now the franchise is up for sale. Forbes.com has listed them for $2.3 billion. That's around their net worth. And the Panthers are not in a huge market, but for a smaller market team, they're one of the bigger teams in the smaller market. So, you look at teams like a team like Jacksonville that's in a smaller market. They've had a lot of trouble selling out games the past few years. This year, they're really, really good. Their defense is probably the best in the NFL. So they're coming up. Fans are showing back up to games. So when you're dealing with teams in a smaller market, a possible ownership change could be huge, because a team could move. A team could relocate to maybe even overseas, because, the NFL plays games in London now and overseas in New Mexico City and stuff like that. So that's definitely a huge thing to think about if a team is up for relocation. But the Panthers, anyone that's thinking that the Panthers are going to move due to ownership, do not believe that. That's not true. They're going to stay right where they are. They have not had a blackout in quite some time. The Panthers sell out every game. PSL ownerships are through the roof. Personally, I've been to 3 games this year, and I've seen it pretty much sold out. I've seen pretty much packed out houses every time I've been there. There's no need to worry about a potential move from Charlotte, because we're one of the stronger, smaller market teams. And I think that's really telling. And if an owner came in and tried to move them, it would be a terrible decision. There's nowhere else you can really go to put a franchise unless it's going across seas. But I don't think the NFL is ready for that. I don't think players are really ready for that. That's a lot to ask. So I think the Panthers are going to stay where they are right now. Also, a person would have to cut, according to Forbes.com, a person would have to cut a $600 million check just to be in control of the Panthers. So you better have some deep pockets if you're going to cut a check for this team. $600 million check. If you're cutting that kind of change, you're in good shape. Now, the speculation for possible ownership has now begun. Now, Forbes also listed some possible owners. We're going to go over a few and say what they mean, what I think about them, and the possibility of them owning the team. Some possible owners here: the Belk family. They own 5% of the team already. They own the popular Belk franchise and store. They own 5% of the team. I think they have a decent shot at possibly owning the franchise and increasing their stake over 50%. They already have a stake in it. Granted, it's only 5%, but hey, you got to start somewhere. So I would definitely look at them as a possible candidate. The Levine family, they own 10% of the team. They are known for the Family Dollar franchise. So we will see what that happens with them. So the Belk and the Levine family already owning percentages of the team. Those are two families that you should look out for to possibly, own the franchise, because they already have a stake. They know what it's like. So we will see what happens with that. Now, for people who do not have ownership currently, Bruton Smith, he owns 8 NASCAR tracks. For anyone that is not familiar with NASCAR, he owns quite a few speedways. He owns Charlotte Motor Speedway, just for people that are in the North Carolina area. He's talked about before possibly owning the Panthers, but the bad news for him is that he's already 90 years old. I'm not speculating that he's going to pass away soon, but that's just certainly not an age to maybe be taking on such a huge project like owning an NFL franchise. Granted, he does have ownership experience when it comes to sports, but that's just a lot to ask. I'm not quite sure if that would work. He certainly has the pockets to do it, but we will see. Maybe his son would be involved. He's a lot younger, so maybe he would be involved. Maybe he could take ownership. I'm not quite sure. And then we look across the street to the owner of the Charlotte Hornets, Michael Jordan. According to Forbes, he has $1.4 billion net worth. And, at first I was considering Jordan probably a big candidate to buy this team, but I know he would keep them in Charlotte, but I'm not quite sure if he's the right fit because while Jordan, I'm not going to say he doesn't know anything about football, man, I'm sure he does. But when it comes to owning a football franchise, it's a lot to ask. You're already owning an NBA team who is being absolutely terrible this season. I've been to a couple Hornets games, by the way, and it has not been good. But that's another topic for another day. So I'm not sure if Jordan's the right guy. Maybe he would sell the Hornets to help buy the Panthers to get some extra cash. I'm not sure if he'd be willing to do that. But we shall see. Keep an eye on Jordan. I think he has a smaller chance to buy the team, but we will see. And the big one here that everyone seems to be talking about and getting the most news is Diddy to buy the Panthers. That first came out on Twitter. Diddy was saying he wants to be the first African-American owner of the Panthers. And you know what? I'm sitting back at first, and I'm thinking, you know what? That'd be pretty damn cool to have Diddy as the owner. It's just someone with a lot more mainstream appeal. I was kind of digging it at first. I was sitting back thinking about it. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe they could change up something with the uniforms. They could bring in tons of new fans. I thought it was kind of an interesting take on someone who can own the franchise other than just the regular old rich guys, But then it got bad. Diddy put up an Instagram video, I believe, saying or referring to the Panthers as the North Carolina Panthers. And when he said that, I quickly hopped off the Diddy bandwagon. First off, if you can't even get the name of the franchise correct, you probably shouldn't be owning the team. So that quickly turned me off. And then also he brings in news of possibly Colin Kaepernick joining the bid to buy the Panthers and possibly even signing Kaepernick to play for the Panthers. And this is where things get really murky because we all know the situation with Kaepernick in the NFL, how things have gone with the whole kneeling and the anthem stuff. We're not going to get into that. Everyone knows about it. So, that would certainly could go either way with fans. There's a lot of fans that support that and are for that, and there's a lot of people that are absolutely against it and would probably stop supporting the Panthers. So that's certainly interesting, but I'm not sure if that's certainly good press for the Panthers. I'm not sure if it's good for the locker room. I would hate for this to become some sort of publicity stunt in order just to get Kaepernick on a team. It needs to be for the good of the franchise and for the good of the team. And I'm not sure if that's right. And second of all, if you sign Colin Kaepernick, there's this guy for the Panthers. He plays quarterback. He was a former NFL MVP. Goes by the name of Cam Newton. He's pretty good. I don't see the need to sign Kaepernick in order to compete with Cam Newton because Kaepernick is not on Cam's level. I just think that's a really bad fit. Obviously, competition can be good it can bring out the best in people, but I just don't see the need for that. We already have the franchise quarterback. I'm not really sure why you would need to. Kaepernick is a backup, sure, but to compete for the starting job for the Panthers, it's not going to happen. Cam Newton is galaxies better than Colin Kaepernick at this point. Cap's kind of been out of the league for a little bit. He certainly would be a little bit rusty. So I'm not sure how that would work. If you ask me, who's the most realistic chance? I'd probably have to go with the Belk or the Levine family because they already have a ownership stake. I just feel like they would have the best chance. I feel like Jerry Richardson already has someone lined up, someone like that already has a stake in the team. I just feel like that's going to be the direction that he goes. So, we're going to keep an eye on that. It's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens. But when the news breaks, I will certainly report on it. And at the end of the day, go Panthers. I hope we go to the Super Bowl this year. We just need to win this weekend, clinch a playoff spot. But at the end of the day, let's just keep playing our game, not worry about the outside stuff, and let's get the win this weekend. The XFL. You remember that? He hate me. Rod Smart. He played for the Panthers too, if you didn't know that. The XFL possibly coming back, and it's looking more and more and more likely. This was first reported by a guy named Brad Shepard. He's a freelance guy, freelance writer, wrestling fan. He reported last week that Vince McMahon is looking to bring the XFL back. And with some reports coming out recently, it seems that is going to be the case. Vince McMahon sold $100 million in stock for WWE, and he started his own company, Alpha Entertainment, to invest in this possible XFL return. It's also being reported by ESPN's Darren Rovell. 5 trademarks for the XFL were filed for Professional Football League and also cover merchandise related to the league. So as you can see here, the XFL returning is very, very likely. If anyone doesn't remember what the XFL is, it was back in the early 2000s, 2000, 2001. Vince McMahon, the owner of World Wrestling Entertainment, started his own football league called the XFL. Now, at first, the ratings were doing really well. I was really young at the time, so I had to do a lot of research the past couple years on it. Also, if you haven't seen the XFL 30 for 30, you should definitely check that out. That's an awesome masterpiece. And with this new possible return of the XFL, you guys should definitely watch that if you haven't seen it. It would give you a lot more thoughts on the possible return of the XFL, a lot more perspective. So going back into this, the XFL returning, at first the ratings were really high, and then each week they sunk lower and lower and lower, and it was canceled after the first season. Vince McMahon tried to manufacture a lot of the entertainment such as he does with WWE. Being a wrestling fan, you would catch a lot of flack for stuff like that. Luckily, I was a kid at the time, so I didn't have to deal with it. So, Vince, he obviously cannot come back with this type of manufactured entertainment. The world is not built like that anymore. People are going to know it's fake instantly. Trying to start feuds with coaches and players and stuff like that. It's just something that's not going to work this day and age, in my opinion. But who knows? Vince McMahon is a mad genius. So we will see what happens with that. What do I think is going to happen? Well, obviously the NFL, their ratings have been down this season. And for majority of the season, the games were not very good. Until these last 3 or 4 weeks, the games have been a lot better. And I mean a lot better. Obviously coming into the playoffs, ratings are probably going to spike back up. So that's good for the NFL, but at the same time, they've taken a little bit of a hit. So what can the XFL do to take advantage of these bad NFL ratings? What can they do to create some parity in this monopoly of a sport? Well, a lot of people think the XFL, extreme football, like hitting people super hard in the head and just not caring, not being all about concussions, because a lot of fans they seem to be over the whole suspensions for taking helmet-to-helmet hits and unnecessary roughness, and they're kind of over the NFL being babyified, I guess. But at the end of the day, man, everyone knows that's not good for you. The whole thing with the CTE reports coming out and all the concussion stuff in the past couple of years, everyone knows that's not good for you. So any fan out there that is hoping that this league comes back in order for more violence, you're in the wrong. That's not smart. It's not good for the players. It's not good for their families, and it's not good for their brains. anyone that has a brain should know that. So don't go into this expecting to see that. And if you do, shame on Vince McMahon, because that's not smart. That's not good for your players. It's not going to last long once again if he goes into this. Now, what should the XFL do to kind of capitalize on this? I think they've got to it's got to be a lot different than the NFL, but at the same time keep the basic rules, the basic fundamentals of football. But it's tough because a lot of people want defenses to be a lot better. A lot of people are tired of seeing bad defensive play, but at the same time, you don't want to be causing more concussions and head-to-head injuries. But also at the same time, people want to see better offense because offenses have been slacking a little bit this year. Until the past couple of weeks, offenses have kind of been finding their groove in the NFL. So maybe Vince he's got to do a little bit of both. He's got to capitalize on making offense and high scoring kind of a huge thing, more like big plays and stuff like that. I'm not sure how the contracts are going to work out. That's something that should be seen, but he's got to build this thing the right way. There's got to be an emphasis on offense, but at the same time, it's got to be emphasis on defense. You can't forget those guys. People want to see big hits, but you don't want to see the concussions and CTE with it. If it was up to me, I think the XFL should go completely different and possibly get rid of the helmets that that are being currently used in American football, and maybe go with like a throwback, maybe a leather helmet. Because to me, if you have leather helmets, guys are going to be a lot more scared to maybe go head to head with someone or hit someone as hard because there's not as much protection there. So it kind of wean guys off from hitting each other. And so maybe go back to leather helmets or a variation of that. And an emphasis on high scoring offense but solid defensive play. And there's going to be some other elements there, maybe some different scoring rules, ways to get points. It's definitely interesting. I think the XFL has a chance if they play their cards right, but will they? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. If I had to predict, this league is going to start in 2019. They're going to need all of next year to get their ducks in a row, get teams signed, get players signed, get front office guys signed. They certainly have a chance. So I'm actually really excited for this. It's definitely going to be interesting to see. Vince has always probably wanted in on an NFL franchise, and it's funny that, my team, the Panthers Are For Sale, you would think maybe he would try and be interested in buying them, but at this point, he's trying to start his own league. Vince has always been a guy that wants to start things on his own. He doesn't really want a lot of help, so definitely I'm going to keep checking in on this story and see what happens. It should definitely be interesting, and I'm looking forward to an XFL revival, so we will see what happens with that. IMDB's Top 10 Movies of 2017. Now, as I read this list, let this be clear. This is based on page views. So I'm assuming on their website, IMDB, whatever movie got the most page views from mobile and desktop usage. Apparently they got 250 million monthly visits. The website does. So this is how this is based on. It's not based on any critical review or anything like that, any critic reviews or stuff like that. So just keep that in mind while I read this list. So here's the top 10 movies of 2017 according to IMDb's page views. Number 10, Blade Runner 2049. Number 9, Thor. Number 8, Alien Covenant. Number 7, Split. Number 6, Justice League. Number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Number 4, Logan. Number 3, Beauty and the Beast. Number 2, Wonder Woman. And at number 1, it is It. Out of these movies, I have not seen them all, but I have seen, I've seen Split, I've seen Justice League, I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I saw Wonder Woman, and I saw It. So I've seen about half of these movies. It's kind of hard to judge this off page views, if it's being critically acclaimed. I don't really have a problem with this list. A lot of these are great movies that I've seen. I especially am ecstatic about It being number 1 because I'm a huge horror fan. scary movies and stuff like that. Old school horror, slasher films, silent horror, stuff like that. I love stuff like that. So you guys stay tuned for the month of October because things are going to get interesting around here. There's going to be tons of stuff. I can't wait to share that with you guys. But back to this, I'm glad that it's number one. That was definitely my favorite film of the year so far. Me and my roommate, William, we went and seen the movie It whenever it first came out, and the house was packed. I knew the film was not going to be like a blood gore fest because if you read the book, or if you've seen the television adaptation back in the 90s, you knew what it was going to be like. So it was really interesting. And at first, I wasn't sure about the makeup and the guy that had to play his costume, Bill Skarsgård. I was really skeptical about that. It didn't look scary, but after the trailers and after the reviews that I've seen, I was all in for this movie, and I enjoyed every single second of it. It was a great film. And, they've got part 2 coming up very, very soon, probably around 2019 it's going to be released or so. Mostly of the cast will be back. Bill Skarsgård will be back, and it will take place where the kids are now adults. So I'm definitely going to be interested to see that. There will certainly be a review on this channel of that film. Wonder Woman was great. A lot of people gave a lot of flack to DC about Justice League, which I'll get into a second. But Wonder Woman was the saving grace of the DC animated universe this year. That was a great film. Gal Gadot, I hope I pronounced her name right. She's great. She's going to be Wonder Woman for the next 10 to 15 years as long as she wants the role. Probably forever. She did a great job. I'm looking forward to seeing her in more Wonder Woman films. Logan, I did not see that film, but that was also a really good reviews from what I heard. A lot of people said it was one of the better movies in the franchise. So I should definitely check that film out. Got a lot of good praise from critics and viewers. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, another good movie. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the first one. Justice League, personally, I love Justice League. It didn't do as well in the box office as everyone thought it would. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a solid film. It didn't deserve a lot of the criticisms that it got, especially with the new Avengers movie coming out. I don't think it deserved a lot of the flack it got. I thought it was a solid film. They had a lot of obstacles to overcome. A lot of people thought the movie was rushed, or a lot of people don't like Ben Affleck or whatever. CG, Superman's mustache, whatever your grief is with the film. I thought it was solid. I'm glad to see it at number 6. At least it made a lot of people happy, I guess. I did see Split. I thought that was a solid film. M. Night Shyamalan, he comes back with a good movie that he desperately needed. I think this worked. I think it was a solid movie. And that's pretty much it for the top 10 movies of 2017. Like I said, I'm glad that it is number 1. A horror movie is at the top. Certainly piqued a lot of people's interest. And for the rest of the films, I thought they were really good. I thought they were really solid movies. I've seen about half of them. So the other half I need to check out. And let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Get up with me, talk with me about it. I want to hear what you have to say about it, especially what you thought about Justice League and It, my 2 favorite movies so far of 2017 as we come to a close. And as we come to a close of this show, so to kind of recap what we talked about, the Panthers are up for sale. We will be keeping track on that, see who's going to buy the team. It should certainly be interesting. The XFL returning. That should definitely be something to watch. Vince McMahon filing for trademarks, trying to restart the XFL. Probably going to be looking likely in 2019, if I had to say. A rival to the NFL. The NFL definitely needs some parity. Definitely needs some parity in the American football scene. So that should be interesting. And like I just mentioned, top 10 movies of 2017. According to IMDB, It is all the way at number 1. I really enjoyed that film. I enjoyed most of these films. I'm going to check out the rest of them. So before we get out of here, guys, we got to get the subs up. The subs are low. So if you guys really enjoy what we're doing here and you want to support it, the best thing you can do is sub to the channel. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to help out and let us know that you really appreciate what we're doing, if you want to see more of it, sub to the channel. Let us guys know that you want to see more. And you guys can follow us. I've got the links on the screen, and I'll have them in the description for our social media. If you guys want to get in touch with us, if you want to see what we got planned, or if you want to talk about anything that you want to see in upcoming videos, let us know about that below and get up with us, guys. I'm Tanner Blue. I'm signing out for episode 2 of Blues World. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining, and you guys have a good rest of your day. Peace out. Merry Christmas.